still having their tea and the yummy snacks. A few people are still yet to come in, but we'll start. Mr. Bali, I'll introduce you. Do settle down. This is the next really interesting talk that you're going to hear. So do take your seats quickly. Okay, our next session features a special address by Mr. Kamal Bali on how digital disruption is enabling entrepreneurship. So one of the disruptions which we are all experiencing in the digital space and technology, and Mr. Bali is going to sort of give us a few more layers and peel a few more layers back for us. Yeah? The recent exponential innovations we have seen in the space of technology are one of the key disruptors impacting organizations and workforces. And Mr. Bali, I welcome you and request you to come up on stage. Mr. Bali has been spearheading reputed Indian as well as multinational organizations as president and CEO for over 2 decades, with a career spanning over 4 decades. Since 2014, he is the president and managing director of the Volvo Group in India. He's an alumnus of the St. Joseph's Academy, Dehradun, and IIT Roorkee. He has had an illustrious career, largely in the automotive and engineering industry. Kamal was felicitated with the Bharat Ratna Sir M. Visvesvaraya Memorial Award in 2023 by the Governor of Karnataka. And also conferred with the Distinguished Alumnus Award 2022 by IIT Roorkee, as also the Kalyan Karnataka Award in 2023. So we're really honored to have him with us. To add to his accomplishments, in 2019, he was also knighted and awarded one of Sweden's highest honors in the Royal Order of the Polar Star, Commander, by their Majesties, the King and Queen of Sweden. Respected for his values-based leadership and strong ethos, Kamal is also recipient of the prestigious 2019 Machinist Lifetime Achievement Award by the Times of India Group for his outstanding contribution in the field of manufacturing. There's a long bio. I'm trying to do it justice. Yeah. He's a thought leader and also wears the governing council hats with distinguished institutions from industry, academia, and public sector. With that, I'll hand it over to Mr. Bali.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Aparna, for that very generous introduction. Thank you, Pooja, for giving me this opportunity to talk on this very important and interesting subject. But before I begin, I must really confess that the previous session, the panel discussion with Pooja, which you were moderating, was absolutely delightful, very insightful, very energizing, and I think I must give you full marks on really conducting this very big hand to all of you. I have 20 minutes. I will try to keep it, as I have lots of material to share, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep it short. We can probably discuss later if there are any points offline. So I think the topic is very, very clear, how digital disruption is enabling entrepreneurship. And let me begin by saying that today we are actually living in very disruptive, very transformative, exciting times. In fact, I think it's rare. It's once in a century sort of a thing as far as our industry is concerned, as far as automotive industry is concerned. It is like akin to 1893, 130 years ago, when the first four-wheeled automobile was launched. So the scenario today for automotive industry is very, very similar to 1893. And I will tell you why it is so a little later during the course of my presentation. So the scenario is very, very, it has changed dramatically, I think, for most sectors of economy, but I can always talk about my sector a little more in detail to say why it is and talk about it a little bit. So let's understand what are really the compelling challenges and opportunities. Why all this, what you see today? Why in the first place we are talking on this subject? Why it is? I mean, I think there are 8 or 9 reasons. I'm very, very quickly going to go through those. I think the first one, very, very clearly, geopolitical and geoeconomic stress in a highly divided world It's a highly divided world. We see there are growing inequities. The poor haven't become any better over the last 15, 20 years. Things are not very great. The rich have become richer. There is no doubt about it. So I think there are a number of challenges which are coming. There's a lack of trust. There are wars in many parts of the world. There is a Cold War between the two largest economies of the world. So a number of things are happening around the world. So I think that's the first very critical thing. But this also leads to many opportunities. I'm not going to go through them, but I can share this presentation with Pooja. Pooja can share with some of you. Well, as far as India is concerned, you can now, the starting line is redrawn for the entire world. You can actually look at larger share in the global value chains. I mean, manufacturing is very, very small in India, 3% contribution we have in the global scenario, whereas China has 29% data as of 4 years ago. So some needle has moved slightly in a favorable direction. But that's largely the scenario. So, of course, so because of lack of trust in some countries over the last 4 to 5 years, the starting lines have been redrawn, and India has tremendous opportunities. And I think India is doing well by really taking this advantage by the PLI schemes and number of other initiatives which are coming. So you will see manufacturing really jumping several notches in the next 3 to 4 years with the investment which are already on ground. The second, of course, the second challenge is air quality. And I think which means that you will need low emission technologies and solutions. You will need a new mobility ecosystem. You can look at new public transport agenda to reduce congestion. So this is the second challenge. But I'll quickly, the third challenge is depleting resources. And this is really challenging the world. And this is asking us to look at, to embrace circularity in a real, when I say circularity, we look at the 9R approach: recycle, repurpose, reuse, repair, remanufacture, refurbish, recover, reduce, refuse. So many technologies, therefore circularity is another very, very important thing. And that's where digitalization comes in big time. Whenever there is a need for optimization, I think circularity, and I'll come to that in a moment. I think the next one is, of course, climate change, very, very big one. Urgent need for us to look at least 2 degrees or 1.5 degrees pathway. Otherwise, we are all doomed. It's a very, very difficult world. Climate change is really for real. It is no more on PowerPoint presentations, what we used to do about 5 to 10 years ago. It's for real, ladies and gentlemen. So green energy transition, which is completely changing my industry, because my industry is the one which is the biggest polluter. So therefore, that's why I talked about 1893 kind of a situation where we have to completely become zero, net zero. By 2040, most of us have taken a pledge to become net zero. And so that's a big challenge. And then, of course, there are black swan events, which test the resilience of companies, countries in a big way. Therefore, agility, adaptability, and flexibility are names of are really the attributes which you need to really run forward. The next one is rapid urbanization, and this is happening across the world. India is moving very, very fast towards urbanizing in a big, big way, and this means very, very large numbers, which means in the next 30, 40 years, you will move the number of people equivalent to United States of America in India, from villages into urban areas. So this is, therefore, you need public transport agenda. As far as I'm concerned, we need to focus on urban planning. Cities are already bursting on the seams. So I think we have a huge challenge going forward. So these are all challenges and opportunities throwing up. The next one, of course, is digital disruptions. It disrupts existing industries, but it also helps to create new value propositions. And for instance, in my sector, if my my revenue space is X, by using digital transformation, I can by using digital tools, I can go to 4X. That's the kind of space we are talking of, and this is true, to my mind, in almost every sector of economy. Number 8, rising aspirations and inequities, digital divide, skills versus jobs rematch, This is a huge challenge. There's a huge industry which will open up on digital coaching, digital education, digital learning. So that's a huge, huge opportunity. And then finally, expressive young India. And I think this is a double-edged sword. I mean, it's a demographic dividend. But if we don't create those meaningful jobs for these young boys and girls, 80 lakh of them joining the workforce, either coming from agriculture into manufacturing or services, or young ones coming directly into the workforce. 80 lakh jobs per year is what we need to create. And those are meaningful jobs we need to create. And therefore, rematch, reskilling is going to be very, very critical, because the new jobs are going to be there. They are going to get created, but they're going to be very, very different jobs from what we have been used to. So I think that's another big challenge. So, I mean, if you look at all of this very, very clearly, data is really the new fuel. If you look at all those 9 challenges and the opportunities emanating from each of those challenges, I think data is the new fuel, and systems approach. When I say systems approach is at the epicenter of whatever we are doing. When I say systems approach, what does it mean? This means that customer basically doesn't want your product. He doesn't want your solution. He doesn't want your service. He wants outcome. He wants a solution. He wants 360-degree outcome. And there is no one company, one organization, or one department which can give the 360. So which means you need to collaborate with others. And I think that's the key. And therefore, systems approach, and I think our mindsets need to be trained as individuals. We are used to working in silos, in very, very well-defined rectangular departments, instead of amoeba kind of structures. So I think that's going to be a real, real challenge. And I think, to me, that is the key. How well can we move into that kind of a systems approach using data? And I think that's going to be the key. And for this, the key requirement is collaboration and partnership. And collaboration happens when there is a trust in the system. And trust happens when there is transparency in the system. So you got to be transparent, leading to being trustworthy, and then people will start collaborating. So this is, to me, the biggest opportunity and a challenge. And I think organizations like Unfold should really, really work and support companies to really tread this path of transparency to trust, to collaboration, to partnership, and to creating those ecosystems. And because the future, to my mind, is going to be interdepartmental, cross-functional, and not cross-functional within the company, but cross-functional across many companies. And networks, people will have to learn to work on networks instead of working in fixed organizations. The HR rules, SOPs, will need to change dramatically to really take care of these things. Let me skip through some of these. This is something we have talked about. Let me not reinforce this point that pervasive digitalization, automation, sustainability agenda is really, really going to be the key going forward. But therefore, organizations need to really turn the ship at the speed of a yacht. And I think this is something very important, because this is the compelling need of entrepreneurship and mindset towards becoming an entrepreneur. You know, and let me say, the good news is that we are living in a world of accelerated innovation. There is amplified collaboration thanks to people being connected. The gap between ideation and action is being minimized today. Because if you have a good idea today, there is enough finance available for really backing that idea. And the third pillar in this is objective insights. Thanks to data, thanks to various sensor and perception equipment which you have much better insights. During my time, my heydays, I would say, we used to be working a lot on gut feel, on what I felt about it. Now, today there is nothing left to feeling. Everything is right available there. Data points to all those things, you know. So I think thanks to objective insights, you have tools to analyze, and you can converge and integrate much, much better. And then finally, cross-fertilization of ideas. I think boundaries which earlier defined a company or a department are getting completely demolished. And I think cross-functional working is leading. So therefore, age of accelerated innovation, and I think we must really make full use of this. Of course, the people angle comes in, and I think that discussion was very, very prominent and very important. And of course, we need to navigate in a fast transforming world. From free trade and global market, we are talking of policies and regional market. We are from zero interest rates in many parts of the world. We are talking of inflation and price management. From products, we are talking of systems. From companies, we are talking of corporate beings. Companies are being also looked at human beings as social beings, as to how we behave, whether we are morally ethical, what is the kind of contribution we make back to the society. Yeah, and then of course, thanks to digitalization, this is one slide which is an important one I just wanted to share with you, is that how the things are changing big time. You look at the bottom four, when typically in a manufacturing scenario, typical products we sell, then we sell parts, then we get into aftermarket, and at best we'll go into financing or insurance. But I think with digital tools which we have, we can get into predictive maintenance, new value discoveries, aggregation and optimization of, see for instance in a trucking industry, for instance, no truck in the world has an efficiency more than 50%. What does it mean? That 50% of the time, a truck is moving air. It is not moving cargo. It's just moving air, right? So if we can really reduce this loss of 50% to say just about 10%, if we can, that 40% efficiency growth, that can actually be monetized. And there's a huge value chain, which is 4x of what today the industry size is. So therefore, those are the kind of opportunities which digitalization is. Sustainability solutions, product as a service, transparency, assurance, integrity in reporting, in the entire value chain, systems-wide solutions for customers. So this market generally is 4x of typical market in any sector of economy. So I think, and typically what is the fuel? Is the data, starting with data. You get into generative AI, and you need sensors and perception equipment. You use augmented reality, connectivity, automation, 5G, 6G, all of those to get all of these. Then you have digital twins. Sitting in your factory, you know how your vehicle is going to perform 10 years from now, because you don't have to go to the field, because the digital twin is sitting in your factory, in your control, which can tell you what needs to be done and what is the next product you need to bring. Okay, then the next few points I want to talk about is how entrepreneurship needs to be nurtured. And I think a lot has been said on this, but I'll just leave some of the bullet points, and I think to my mind, build a higher purpose. The first one, the most important, is how do you build a higher? Why? I mean, because the reason is that the youngsters are in the midst of social, ideological, technological, economic conflicts. There are a number of pathways to achieve a particular goal. They are really little confused as to what is that path. So I think it's very, very important that we build a higher purpose and say, this is the purpose we are all working towards, and we must all. So I feel these youngsters get connected with the higher purpose much, much better. But you got to walk that talk. The senior management, the seniors have to lead by example. And I think to me, this is really to clear the fog of uncertainty. I think higher purpose is very, very critical. And like, for instance, we have a higher purpose, a company like IKEA, very, very clearly a higher purpose, and they stick to their purpose because they want to serve, they say, the many. So which means that their pricing, their price points, their offerings are all designed in that way. Passion and reasoned ambition. I think this is very, very important, and that passion is like the fire in the belly, and I mean that fire in the belly is very critical towards that higher purpose. And I think this is something which can be used by organizations in a very, very good way through setting examples. And then, of course, a culture that supports experimentation and excellence. And I think this is something not new. I think this has been discussed in the previous session also. How do we create that culture, that safe environment that where people can do not worry about failing, and learning fast to succeed. So I think this is, to my mind, very, very important. So things like digital twins, virtual simulations, they help you to really tide with that challenge. And that's where digital piece comes in again very, very big time. So how you use digital as a tool for the benefit of society, for the benefit of the world at large, I think it's a very, very interesting tool to my mind. And of course, encouraging building social capital and inclusion. And I think this is very important. And I think COVID has taught us that you can't live by yourself in isolation. I mean, I think you have to take everybody along. So organizations also need to really have the human face once again, and to say, be more inclusive, whether it's not only gender, it's also many other aspects of inclusion which we really need to focus on. And I think organizations which are walking their talk, they are getting. So today, the stakeholder is not just the customer. The stakeholder is, the number of stakeholders have gone multiple times. It's your current employees, your future employees, society at large, the area in your neighborhood, as a company where your factory is, how you treat people around. I mean, I think this is something very, very important. And I think, how do you therefore bring the best version of your people to the workplace? And I think move toward data-driven organization. I think making data the epicenter of most decisions, especially on the core processes. And I think that we all know. This one is very important, where the sustainability lens. And here I want to spend a minute. And this is very critical because holistic sustainability is going to be the key going forward. It's going to be your competitive advantage. And if you do not, and there are 3 aspects in this, rather 4 aspects. Here, what I mean is by sustainability, whatever you do has to be economically viable. It has to have more bang for the buck. So that's one. That's one. The second, it has to be environmentally friendly. Third, it has to be socially inclusive. And 4, it has to be morally ethical. So if you do not tick these 4 boxes as an organization, you may have the best product, the best service, or the best outcome, you will not succeed. So I think this is something very, very important. In some of the cases, when it comes to environment, there is a carbon tax coming. And I'm sure there's also coming a tax on gender. I mean, if the organization is imbalanced on gender, there are many markets which are saying from October 2026, they will stop buying from you, especially in the textile industry. So already these challenges are coming, so we need to be very wary of those. And of course, the digital practices support collaborative workplaces, so that's another big advantage to build open and innovative culture, embrace the same, very, very important. Continuous learning, I think, again, digital media and connectivity has democratized learning, and learning is something which is very, very critical for organizations to remain afloat going forward. So, and then of course, I think this is another very important one. To instill entrepreneurship, we also need to develop a good balance between the current and the future mindsets. For instance, focused jobs versus collaboration across domains, fail-safe versus risk appetite. You can't just go you can't swing into one way or the other. You need to have a very, very good balance. Excelling in one domain versus continuous learning, climb the ladder of authority, and expand area of influence. So job satisfaction versus higher purpose. So I think these are some of the things which are going to be very, very critical. Finally, to my mind, my definition of leadership is partnership. I think partnership is the key to leadership and entrepreneurship. And I can tell you that in the past, we were obsessed with the word competition. I think in future, we will have to get obsessed with the word collaboration, because to my mind, that's going to be the way forward. So with this, I would like to thank everyone for this opportunity. If there are any questions, I can always. Thank you. Yeah, please.
Hi, sir. I'm Piyush Bhamre. So my question is, since you come from the automobile industry, and especially it comes from Europe, where the culture is quite different what we see in India. So then, because now there are a lot of metrics are coming in when it comes to innovation or entrepreneurship within the organization. How in your organization you are tackling this?
So I think, very frankly, I can tell you that India is the favorite kid on the block. We are the most, we are in spotlight. So some of the most difficult tasks, very deep R&D, deep tech is happening in India. We are now the largest research center outside Sweden for the group. We are the largest digital transformation outside the group. So we are no more, we are not getting jobs anymore from the headquarter because of cost. We are today getting jobs because of the competency which we bring to the table. And I think that we are leading in many areas. For instance, we are becoming the 4th international hub for the world. So I think for me, what I've seen over the last 10 years is amazing. The kind of shift which is coming in, at least in the minds of Europeans about India and the capability of our country. I mean, earlier people always talked about that, yeah, India is very good at potential, but when it came to performance, we always fell short. Today, they are not talking about that. Today, in fact, after COVID, they say you guys performed better than anyone else. Our guys delivered 100% on all of the goals. So I think it's a very different world. But we need to really market our country. We need to market ourselves. Many times we are, as Indians, we are very cynical about ourselves. We are self-critical, too much self-critical. So I think we also need to have that confidence and say, guys, we know what we're doing. I'm not saying get overconfident or get arrogant, but I think be confident at least and say, yes, what we're doing is the right thing to do. So I'm pretty hopeful that a lot of organizations are being able to do that and moving forward. Thank you.
Hi, sir. One more question. Hi, sir. One more question.
There's a question.
Yeah.
Sorry. Okay. I'll see.
Yes, sir. Question is, as an organization, what can be the, of course, it is for sure innovation and research and development that is an essential part to sustain the long-term business. And according to you, what is your suggestion? In a revenue perspective, what can be the percentage you can invest on the innovation or the research and development part?
So I think, it is not the percentage on innovation. I think this innovation has to be part of the organization culture. And I think to my mind, the maximum, I would say, focus an organization can put on people centricity, that's the key. Building a culture which is, whichever way you want that culture to be. You want an innovative culture. You want a culture where people, there is a mutual respect, there is care, there is empathy, but yet very high performance orientation. So you need to build a culture which you think is, to my mind, maximum investment is required in that. Everything else can be purchased by writing a check, including technology, including AI. You name anything, you can buy a company if you have the money. So to my mind, what cannot be purchased is the culture. It has to be built, it has to be nurtured. So if you were to invest, I know it sounds little motherhood statement, but I think to me, it is the reality. And if you put your money behind your people, training the people, getting them the right inputs for the future, and building a culture on based on certain values which I talked about, and I think that is the way forward. And this culture, as somebody talked, it's not a vaccine or a tablet which you have to give. It has to be part of the organization system, and it has to be owned by everyone inside the company, especially the business leaders. So, and they need to walk the talk.
Okay, thank you.
I think now everybody is warming up.
Yeah.
They were first silent. Now.
Mentioned about use of digital twins. So I just want to understand, how is Volvo using digital twins as a part of the product development process? If so, in India or in the parent company?
So I think for our new product development, we have 2 digital twins even in Bangalore. So we work very, very closely on all future inputs which we need for further design. We have lots of customer data which we never had earlier. So we have lots of connected vehicles, and these digital twins are completely synchronized with that. And we're getting a lot of inputs, a lot of design inputs for R&D engineers. And through AR, VR, we are also using these inputs. We work together between Sweden, US, and India. Engineers work on the same machine at the same time virtually. So that's how we are using, and digital twins are helping a big way in this. But if you need more information on the technical aspects, we can also meet offline and we can discuss.
Thanks.
I think,
Yeah.
okay, Mr. Rahman.
Yeah.
Okay, it's a high integrity culture and also innovation, right? What were the things that you had to bring into the Indian environment that you could learn from the Sweden and vice versa, maybe?
Yeah, I think clearly, I think the ethics. We had some situation. I mean, I can share with you now. About 10 years back, we had certain laptop schemes, and where people did not buy laptops for home, and they simply gave bills. So I had to, the moment I joined the company, I had to get rid of 44 young boys and girls for peanuts. And because we had to set an example. And these guys actually felt they did nothing wrong because this was something authorized to them. And they didn't swindle any money of the company, but they followed a wrong principle. So I think this is something which we really set some examples, and people got to know that these ethics are very, very important. So I think that's something which we wanted to do. I think one thing from Sweden, what we've learned very, very clearly is collaboration and consensus. At times they are blamed to be slow. They can be quite slow. They can be very, very slow. But I think they go through an approach of consensus. Very, very unlike Americans. It's one guy takes the decision, and it doesn't happen in Swedish companies like that. You may be whatever. Hierarchies don't work in Swedish companies. You may be a leader, or you may have a certain responsibility, but because you are in that position, you don't have extra. A guy at JL1 grade stays in the same hotel as a guy in JL10. So we don't have any of these things, So these are few things which we learned from each other, and I think something very interesting, and that builds an amazing culture.
I also wanted to, Mali, since you're there before you leave, and you're also on the board of ISRO, as you mentioned.
Yeah.
So we have our scientists here. I thought we'll also do a quick introduction. Mr. D.K. Singh, and you wanted to introduce? Please, all of you, please come up. Yes, please, Vanita, Mr. Biju, all three have turned up. And Mr. Bali was very excited that ISRO is part. In fact, we have multiple other participants from ISRO. ISRO is a paid, registered member for us, and that was a very big privilege. Yes. Mm-hmm.
So Mr. Mohan,
Thank you. Thank you. They are also our Vanguard Award nominees. You're going to be here for the Vanguard Awards, so you'll meet them. Okay. Thank you. We'll just do a little felicitation, and we'll start the next panel. We are running a bit late. Just bear with us. That's the last panel for the day. And on the topic of sustainability, which is a very critical topic. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Ved, can I get you on this?